Welcome back into this episode of Automotive Insiders. I'm your host, Jason Stein. Great to have you back listening again. In the race to bring new vehicle programs to market, one of the most critical and often most fragile links is the transition from technical design to a scalable product. Too often, R&D, engineering, and procurement are operating in silos. Data doesn't align, communication breaks down, and what should be a seamless handoff turns into delays, inefficiencies, and rising costs. And here's the bigger issue. Most of the tools in place today were never built for this level of complexity. They're designed for indirect spend, things like services or office supplies. But when it comes to direct spend, highly engineered components tied to the bill of materials, teams are often left managing billions of dollars through email spreadsheets and disconnected systems. Our guest today has seen that problem up close. During his time at Tesla working on the Model 3 launch, Spencer Penn had a front row seat to one of the most ambitious scale-ups in automotive history. What he identified was a fundamental gap in how teams and suppliers collaborate during that critical transition from design to production. Today, Spencer is the co-founder and CEO of LightSource.ai, a platform built specifically to address that gap, bringing engineering, procurement, and suppliers together in real time. It's a model they call spec to scale, and it's helping manufacturers move faster, align teams more effectively, and reduce direct material costs in the process. Spencer is my guest on Automotive Insiders. Spencer, welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to have you on Automotive Insiders.
Jason, thank you for having me. Big fan of the show, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Thank you, as am I. Let's get into it. Your time at Tesla gave you a unique, really front row seat to one of the most significant scale-ups that we can probably talk about in industry history, certainly significant, relevant, unique. What was the specific missing link, if I could, that you identified in how teams were working together that formed the foundation for what you're doing now with LightSource?
It's a great question, and I think about my experience at Tesla all the time. Just for context, I helped lead a program there called the Model 3, which was Tesla's first
Of course.
mass market electric car. When I first moved out to California, this was about a decade ago, a little bit over. Tesla was a boutique car business. We were making 1,000 vehicles per week, which, as you know, is kind of a rounding error for the auto space. And
Yeah.
uh, it's actually funny. I'm back home in New York this week. My friends and family, when I first left, told me that it was a big career mistake to work at Tesla, that it would never, electric would never be someone's main car. It's a tech toy. It's an iPad with wheels on it. But I was just excited to see what this Elon guy was up to. Uh, it's funny because you mentioned a missing link. There were dozens of things that were broken at Tesla. It was fires all the time. It was an incredible experience. I would say the most fun I never want to have again. But the thing that I felt, Tesla was interesting. We had a dual mandate for the Model 3. One was to deliver the vehicle to market faster than traditional OEMs, and the second was to deliver the base vehicle for $35,000, which was a lot of car for the money, as you can imagine at that time for an EV. And so we had to get really creative. And I believe that necessity is the mother of invention. And there were many things that Tesla did that were very unique on the verticalization front, on the design front. But the thing that really spoke to me was how strong the collaboration was between engineering and procurement, as well as the supply base. And when I looked at the process, it was exceptional and did allow us to unlock a lot of velocity. But when I looked at the tooling and the not the tooling like the manufacturing tooling, but like the software tooling, it was a highly manual process. And I went out to the market to try to find, is there some kind of sourcing, procurement, and engineering collaboration all in one sort of platform? And I was sort of shocked to discover that the world of procurement was really focused on indirect materials, which is not things going into the vehicle, it's stuff that the company buys to consume itself. And so at a certain moment, I don't know if you get inspired or frustrated, but thought it might make sense if we went out on our own and really built something that was, oriented around direct materials, automotive procurement on the NPI front to help companies accelerate their time to market and turn direct materials into their new competitive advantage.
Were they able to do that just because they were starting from scratch? a white sheet of paper and they had no traditional ways of going about things.
I think that's part of it. I think certainly you have to be willing to tear up what you've already built. I think when folks get very precious about the things that they've done historically, they tend to miss the future. But I wouldn't say that there was one thing that made Tesla in particular special. I think it was a combination of things. One is that we were able to design, we had one vehicle platform that we'd work at a time. And so we talk about commonizing parts between platforms. That wasn't even an issue. We were just working on one platform. And so we were really aligning all of our demand to a finite set of components and then maximizing the carryover to the Model Y. Tesla's also very tech forward, so we would develop our own software. Everything that was in the vehicle, we could do ourselves. We would also do over-the-air updates, so some of the fine-tuning could actually happen post SOP. So just thinking about realigning those timelines. We would test in simulation significantly more than traditional OEMs, which reduced our time for homologation and test. And it's always, if you can cut twice, measure once. Wait, I'm gonna forget this. Measure twice.
Measure twice.
Yeah, measure twice, cut once. But in simulation, you can measure thousands of times, make all the tweaks you need to, and then cut once. And then I think the final thing is that Tesla's approach to innovation was take a lot of shots on goal. And some of them will work out and you will change the industry, and some of them won't work out. And you just have to be prepared for waste and scrap. And so when I think about my time at Tesla, we threw away a lot of parts. We scrapped a lot of tooling. We put in these automation facilities in our Fremont uh, material handling capability that was super innovative, but we had to scrap it all. And Elon would go on the earnings call and say, humans are underrated, which was really code for we over automated and we didn't test enough. And so you could very easily point to all the places where we wasted capital. But what's a lot harder to measure is what was the value of getting to market 3 years faster than the competition. What does that velocity do? And in the case of Tesla, it contributed $1 trillion to market cap, being able to sell the Model 3 for longer, earlier, being the leader in the market, getting adoption across the industry. So um, I think that there is an element of just speed wins, and I think we're seeing that a lot also now from the OEMs, especially the EV OEMs coming up in China. The velocity is just really hard to comprehend, and they're sometimes getting prototypes out the door before we in the United States are getting an RFQ out the door.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot that we can do, a lot of opportunity here, and I think it's the marriage of process, technology, and just willing to take that sort of innovation forward mindset.
You've borrowed much of that thinking in the establishment of LightSource.ai, a purpose built platform where you're bringing internal teams together with their supply base, collaborating in real time at the level that you talked about. It's a methodology that you call spec to scale. That's how you describe basically a new way of working. How does LightSource enable R&D, engineering, procurement to collaborate cross-functionally rather than just doing the traditional, which is let's throw it over the wall and see what happens?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jason. And what I would say is that the world of procurement has been done a great disservice by the labeling of what they call source to pay, which is the traditional spectrum of procurement software. It's broken up into source to contract and procure to pay. It's truly oriented around indirect, which is again, purchasing things for the company to consume. But in the direct materials world, the process doesn't start with sourcing and it doesn't end with P2P systems. It ends with the ERP and it begins with the PLM, which is the engineering team's system of record. And so what spec to scale is all about is taking a more comprehensive view of the life cycle of getting procurement upstream toward engineering, integrating with the PLMs, pulling in BOMs, starting to get indicative pricing and collaborating with suppliers early. There's a diffusion upwards of innovation from the supply base into the OEM as well that I think we can't lose sight of. And then also, of course, the standard RFX process, BOM management through NPI. Post award, you've also got PPAP quality teams in a single pane of glass. And then even long after the vehicle's launched, the world doesn't stay still. We have tariff changes, we have global trade challenges, we have index and currency markets moving. There's risk that starts to pop up all over the place. And so even post vehicle launch, there are a lot of ongoing life cycle topics that you need to manage as a joint and unified procurement and engineering team. And so spec to scale it really spans that whole gamut.
Spec to scale is sort of your own trademark for what you're doing, but you have other things. So beyond internal teams, you make it possible to bring external suppliers to what is a collaborative mix at that BOM level. How does that transparency change the bidding process? How does it eliminate the back and forth that usually bogs down, plagues, and hinders launches?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there's a lot of what I would say confusion in the supply management process that doesn't benefit anybody. When I was at Tesla, you can only imagine how many times we'd get a quote back. It would be different from the last quote we'd received. We'd ask why. The supplier would say, "Oh, I was working off of an old drawing. I was working off of an old BOM." And then we'd have to go back and do like forensics, like an investigator on our email accounts to figure out, what was said when to make sure that we're all working from the same sheet of music. Uh, that again, that benefits nobody. And so if you have a collaborative platform between your engineering teams, your procurement teams, and your suppliers to iterate on design in parallel with iterating on costs, and then provide an early view of where the vehicle program's margin is going to land with the product and finance teams. If you can measure it, you can improve it. And before LightSource, you're right, you threw it over the fence. You'd get back results. It's a black box. One team doesn't talk to the next team. And then all of a sudden you end up launching a vehicle and you say, well, it's worse than we'd expected. It's more expensive and getting more expensive over time. Our margin is worse. And somehow our competitors got to market before we did. And that's just not the position of a winning company. And so I found a lot more and more recently that there's this new generation of hardware companies that are sort of popping up across not just automotive, but all industries. And when I think about, Tesla and customers of LightSource that are building next generation vehicles versus the traditional OEMs, it's a new generation of vehicle manufacturer. When you think about Anduril instead of Lockheed Martin, it's like the new generation of aerospace and defense companies. When you think about hims and hers, these sort of direct consumer compound pharmacies versus the more traditional Pfizer, these are companies that are using LightSource to turn what would otherwise be a bottleneck, which is the NPI process, into a competitive advantage to win on speed. And so people often ask me, hey, what's more important, reducing cost or reducing risk? And my answer is neither. Speed wins. If you can run around, you can run past your competitors, you can do 5 iterations before they've even got their initial version off the ground. And I think that's part of the secret of, why things have happened so well in China is the amount of velocity with which they're able to interact specifically with their supply base. And we should look at that and say, hey, we've got a lot of capabilities here in the United States, a lot of intellectual capabilities as well. Let's lean into that advantage, but also let's learn from where other folks are doing things potentially faster and try to match it.
We know the industry runs largely still on email spreadsheets for direct spend. That's slow, it's error prone. By moving into a purpose built platform, how much faster are these teams moving, and what does that speed mean for their competitive edge?
The answer to me is clear as a glass of water. I mean, you can deliver your product in 45% less time, so almost twice the velocity to market and at a lower BOM cost. It depends on the industry, of course, but 3 to 15% is kind of the range we see. Spreadsheets are great. Like I don't want folks to think that my mission here, I mean, LightSource is not just a job, it's my life's work, right? Um, and my objective is not to kill the spreadsheet or to get people off of email. But when you're able to get into a high caliber system of record that's AI native, especially with how quickly that space is moving, you're able to do amazing things. And when somebody leaves the business, that knowledge doesn't leave like out the door with them. You don't have a lot of confusion, he said, she said, about different iterations, design changes, prices. And you don't, with Excel, you don't get a system like LightSource where you get what I would call compounding value. And so the more that you run your engineering, sourcing, and supply management through LightSource, the more that data, which is vast, I mean, billions of dollars of sourcing today is happening through LightSource, the more value it provides to the users. If I think about some of our automotive customers, I mean, they'll be sourcing billions of dollars every year, and we say, okay, you should have incredible cost intelligence. You should be able to price a BOM down to the penny. You know all your suppliers, you know the machine rates, you know the cycle times, you know the material types. You should have this amazing pulse in the market, and they're getting all that data. It's just that they truly have no way to make credible use of it. I think AI enables them to do it, but AI is not a magic bullet. You can't just throw, every spreadsheet in the world into it and hope you get an answer. There is still an element of garbage in, garbage out. But if you can build a high quality system of record, then AI can help you then build a high quality system of action on top of that. Ultimately, with the end result that you just drive, faster sourcing cycles and a lower BOM cost. That's the two things I think about. I want to get to market faster and I want to be competitive on price. And if you can do those two things, then those companies win on speed.
One of the biggest hurdles is that most procurement tools in the market today were built to manage indirect spend. But for direct spend, where the parts are complex and highly engineered, teams are largely left to fend for themselves. You're offering an alternative here. So, Spencer, thanks for educating us.
I really appreciate it, Jason. And if folks want to learn more about LightSource, we're actually presenting at the MEMA CPO conference on May 21st. We'll be joined on stage by some customers, including leaders from TI Automotive, a large, excellent tier one. So we couldn't be more excited. And if the listeners want to get in touch, they can always reach out to our website directly.
Yeah, absolutely. Or also go to the MEMA website. Solve your systemic bottlenecks firsthand. Thank you so much, Spencer.
Thank you, Jason, for having me.
Thanks again to Spencer Penn, co-founder and CEO of LightSource.ai. And thank you for listening to this program on your favorite podcast platform. I'm your host, Jason Stein. We'll see you again next time.